So I finished Nettle and Bone, and that was good. I think that's definitely in the running to be one of my best reads of December. So I'm really excited about that. Um, so I was not excited about reading Shred Sisters. Like after I made that video, I was like, why am I reading this book? So I DNF'd it. I got started on reading another like Kindle Unlimited book, which was um something I don't remember what it was called, but it's this book about it was a TikTok like book about it's kind of like Haunting Adelaide Adelaide Adeline um about this girl, this 20 something year old girl who's the daughter of a politician. It's like I don't remember what it's called, but it's a stalker romance. It's like it's part of the Possessing Her series, I think is what it's called. But so I saw like a book talk short, and the thing that I was like, this is so ridiculous. I need to start reading this just because I cannot believe that this is real. Was that there was a surveillance video of her like that he was watching her and he crashed his car or something, and I was like, what the fuck is this? So I started reading it and I was like, this is so scary. Like I cannot believe that Book Talk is like into stuff like this. And so I got to that part and I was like, this is really messed up in so many ways. And I was just like, I couldn't keep reading it because it was just like the more I read, the more scary and awful it got. And I was just like, I can't, I cannot believe that Book Talk is like, it got a 3.7 on Goodreads. And I was like, I can't believe they ranked it so high. But it's like, I'm like, why? Why? So I DNF'd it because I just couldn't read anymore because it was just continually getting worse. So I DNF'd it. I was like, there are just certain roads that I cannot go down. So I DNF'd Shred Sisters and I DNF'd that first book in the Possessing Her series because I was just like, nope. Certain books are just not for me, and Book Talk, certain books from Book Talk are just, oh, cannot do, cannot do. So I finished Nettle and Bone, which was refreshing after DNFing that book, the Stalker book, because the romance in Nettle and Bone is top tier. So then I was like, kind of mulling about, like, well, what do I read now? Because I still have the Analects, which I'm going to read tomorrow, read part of tomorrow, which I'm about like halfway through. And I want to finish that by the end of the month. Then about, I still have about 5 hours left of House in the Cerulean Sea, which I'm about halfway through that, maybe. So I think I'm on like chapter 10. That's an audiobook. So I've got that. Um But I was like, oh, what do I want to read now? So I picked up another one of my library books called Human Acts. And I read about 4 pages of that, and I was like, I'm not feeling that, so I might DNF that. Um, but then I started reading Recursion, and I read the first chapter of that, and that was really good. So I might read Recursion. But I read 11 books this month so far. Oh, and I picked up Naked Lunch, and I finished Naked Lunch, and um there was a reason why I had previously like put that down and not finished it. And I know it's supposed to be like a classic and everything, and it's a good book for the most part, but there's just like certain things about it are supposed to be shocking because it's supposed to mess with like 50s and 60s sensibilities, and it's supposed to be shocking in that aspect, that it's supposed to be messing with culture norms and stuff, that it's like dealing with like homosexuality, and it's supposed to be like, because they were likening homosexuality to a mental illness, and um that if you were a drug addict, you were more likely to be a homosexual or something. And he was likening like mental illness, drug abuse, and homosexuality in all the same vein. That if you were one of those things, you were more likely to do those other two things, or that it was like a culture of those things, that, yeah, that it was like a lifestyle of depravity, and that all of those things went together for some reason. That if you were a homosexual, you were also a drug addict and mentally ill. And it was like this culture of depravity. And it was like how they assessed that you were just like a all around bad person. And it was interesting the way that they had put that back in the day. But, it's not how it works specifically. It's such a faulty thinking. It's not clear thinking about people and society and how people work and how the DSM works these days, and it, it's such a it's such a yeah. So it just seems like a lot of noise, a lot of just faulty thinking. Anyway, yeah. So I finished that, and I was like, because I was like skipping whole parts. I didn't skip whole parts, but I was kind of just like um glazing over whole parts, because I was just like, you know, it was just a lot of repetition of things that he was saying before, and kind of was being shocking in certain aspects and just not being clear about stuff and just talking about depravity and things like that and just, talking about drug abuse and things like that. And, I was just not, it just kind of got repetitive after a while. Like the last 30 pages 30 pages kind of get real hard to handle. You're just like, I just want this to be over with. That's why I DNF'd it before, is because I was just like, oh, I'm just ready to this to be over with. But so I was just kind of like skimming, but I'm just like, all right, William Burroughs, I get it. All right. But I read it. It's just, I don't know how active of reading I did of it. It's just, it was all right, I guess. Just, I think I gave it 3.5 stars. I would have ranked it higher, but I was just like, this is a classic. I probably could have given it 4 stars, but I was just like a little bit tired by the end of it, that I just wanted it to be over with. And so I think I was just a little bit emotionally worn out by the end of it, that I just didn't, because I had previously DNF'd it. And so it just felt like a little emotionally exhausting as a book. And that there are better books out there as far as classics go. And this just wasn't the best classic I've read. But it's good. I think if I had finished it originally when I started reading it, I probably would have ranked it higher. But also I think it's just because I've read a lot of books this month, and so maybe that was part of it, reason why I ranked it lower. And I've read better books this month, and so it was just sort of like, you know, I wasn't I've been kind of a little harsher this month than I usually am as far as reading books, because it's sort of like, I'm thinking about what are the best books I've read this year, and so I'm like, this is not the best book I've read this year, and so I'm a little bit meaner about my rankings. And so I'm like, this is just all right. It's not the best. But I think if I had read it earlier this year, I would have given it 4.5 stars. But I think, yeah. So I think timing plays into it a bit. Because the December books are weighted heavier, so I was rating it lower because I just didn't want it to affect the outcome of the uh how I ranked the books for the end of the year, because I didn't want it to end up being the best book of the year, because it's not the best book I've read this year. Anyway, so I'm reading The Analects, Human Acts, House in the Cerulean Sea, and Recursion. So those are the 4 books I'm reading right now. Hopefully I can finish them all before the end of the year. I'm trying my best. Thanks for watching. Sorry about all the yawning. It's a little late. I should go to bed. Okay, good night.